Just drawing in black and white gives us many different materials to choose from, each one with their own sets of limitless possibilities and techniques. In this video, we're going to go over some really great tips and techniques to creating art with pencils, ballpoint pens, and markers. Okay, so first tip here is for a ballpoint pen. And when we're doing black and white ballpoint pen drawings, what I love to do is I love to have a spare piece of paper handy where I can roll my pen to get rid of little ink blotches. Every few little strokes with the pen, I'll come over here and I'll just roll my pen to get rid of any excess ink so I can avoid having splotches on my drawing. So as you can see, there's no ink blotches, but there are actually some ink blotches here. So next tip when drawing in black and white is with a pencil. First tip is work out as many things as you can in the thumbnail. If by the end of it your drawing doesn't make sense to anybody except for yourself, that's okay. You know, you're the only person that really needs to understand your own thumbnail. This is all about notes for yourself of what's going to be important when you do your actual serious sketching. Next tip is to go with very light marks in the beginning. Don't go too heavy too quick. This might be about as dark as I go with my rough sketch. Plenty of room to make new values, to make things really nice and dark, and I've kept so much of the nice white of the paper for maximum values. Next tip with drawing with a pencil, this one's a very simple one. Just have a blank piece of paper for your hand so you don't get the paper all smudgy with your hand constantly going over your own drawing. Next tip is to experiment with different types of pencil marks. For example, right now I'm doing more like a hatching. And later on when I get into the beard, I'll be doing a lot different marks for the beard. Try to experiment whenever you can, especially when you're dealing with different types of textures. Those are really great opportunities for trying out different types of pencil marks. So you can see for this part, for example, this part is supposed to be kind of like the tree's beard and mustache. So the pencil marks that I'm going to be using here are going to be very, very different from this very flat feeling patches of lines. Next little tip that you probably have seen before and noticed in this video is that I use the side of my pencil to draw, and that's mostly for the entire drawing. You know, I might use the tip of my pencil maybe 5% of the time, maybe. And why do I do this? It's because as I'm drawing with the side of my pencil, I keep sharpening, right? And that means that I constantly have a nice point to my pencil, even though I've been drawing with it for a good long time now. Last little tip I'm going to share with you about the pencil is try using different values of pencils. B's are always going to be nice and dark, but then they're going to be softer, easier to smudge. So even more important to have a spare piece of paper around to protect your drawing from smudging it with your own hand. Okay, so for my next tip, it's going to be using markers. So of course, this one right here, this is the really thin Sharpie. This is going to be used for tiny little details, maybe. Okay, this one is a fatter Sharpie, can go completely black. That one I'm going to be using to do some subtle details within this one. This one is a very dark marker, but it's not as dark as the black. You can see up close, you can see that there is a subtle difference there. Okay, so I'm going to use those together, and that's going to be really nice. This one right here, this one's going to be great because here's a little tip for you. If you're using markers for art, try to get a marker that is starting to run out of ink. That will be a nice way to transition from one tone to the next. Okay, and the last one, I was saying these two are the same, it's just different tips. This one's really big. You can see it's a very light tone. And then I have this marker that's two-sided, has a sharp tip and a fat tip. Okay, next tip that I want to give you is how to begin. Now there's many different ways to begin. There's many different ways to use marker rendering. However, the best I could do is I could show you the way that I use it. Okay, so I use it in conjunction with a pencil. Why? Because in the end, when I finish my marker rendering, I could just erase all of this. So why not use every little tool in your toolkit to your advantage? I might also, in the very beginning, detail out little parts that might be extra important. So for example, the eyes generally for a character is always very important, and if we're using tiny or big fat markers, this part might be extra important. So I'm just going to detail that out a little bit more so that we get precisely the eye position, the eye shape that I want. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'm ready to go. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some darker tones. So using my second darkest marker here, I'm going to start to just box in the main shadows, the main light pattern that's going to happen on our subject. Now, this is going to be a dark subject. This is going to be a gorilla. So depending on your subject, your markers might just change. And again, there's many different ways to use markers. This is only one. You can kind of see me going over the gorilla's face, almost like I'm sculpting it, almost like I'm drawing these extra details that I end up just going right over with the marker. You might be wondering, why is that? Well, I do that because it's kind of like it helps me to remember and go through any issues that I might have while doing this. And so when I get into more details, then I would have already figured out a lot of those issues, a lot of those problems. How am I going to deal with the nose? How am I going to deal with the eye area? So on and so forth. All these little issues, I'm kind of going through them multiple times with multiple different markers. You can see with this example here, I've kept my values very simplified. We have the dark area, which is described pretty much with just this color, and black, which is just a shade darker. The other part to it, the lighter parts, I'm really just using three basic things here. One is white, which is just slightly, wherever I wanted things to pop out the most, I left those just blank. The other part is these two tones here. They're the same tone, different marker. This laid in my base color. And then finally, I use the dirty brush here to do some subtle details, some subtle shading and things like that with the face, the more intricate areas. can see it a little bit closer here, where the tones get just a little dirty, a little bit transparent there. All right, so there you go. And those are markers. My whole entire mission with these videos is to help the art community in a positive way, to share the things that I've learned along the way that have helped me in my career. And hopefully, by doing so, it'll help the art community. Now, if you want to help the art community as well and help to support me doing these videos, share them with your friends. That's all I ask, okay? And hashtag it Schoolism Tips, then I can find it on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll answer back. All right, take care, everybody, and don't forget to subscribe. All right, everyone, so if you like the video, you want to learn more, you want to improve as an artist, highly recommend clicking over to Schoolism, signing up for the newsletter, because in this newsletter, you will always get free videos and tutorials and news about Schoolism so you can keep up to date with what's going on in the world. Click over now, and I'll see you guys next time.